Hello, it's October 24th. We are just 2 days away from the extraordinary event that Jose Vega and I are holding in Manhattan. And I'm just going to share the screen for a moment because I really want you to attend this if you possibly can. Now, let me see here. There we go. So this is Saturday, the 26th. Ticket sales close tonight. Get your tickets. Of course, there is a phone number somewhere. If you call, if we know you, you probably can still get tickets, but to order them online, here's the phone number, 1-800-498-8561. You have to do it by 6 o'clock. And again, we have a phenomenal array of speakers, myself, Jose, Colonel Wilkerson, Helga Zepp-LaRouche, Scott Ritter, Ray McGovern, Jimmy Dore, Dennis Fritz, Russ Dobular, Keaton Weiss, Garland Nixon, Angela McCardle. So you don't want to miss this. It's going to be absolutely life-changing and hopefully policy-changing, because what's going on in the rest of the world that people here don't seem to know much about is that the BRICS nations have added about 13 more nations as associates, including Turkey, which is also in NATO. So that's going to be very interesting because I don't know how they're going to be persuaded to go to war against Russia or China when they're now part of an economic development network. And I avoid using the term bloc because Helga Zepp-LaRouche has insisted it's not a bloc. And also President Putin, we really don't want the world forming into blocs. The problem is this Anglosphere, this British imperial NATO fascist blob is insisting and antagonizing the world. Now, last night there was yet another debate from which I was excluded, even though I demonstrated, according to the idiotic standards set by the state of New York, that I am not a frivolous candidate, filing 70,000 signatures. But Gillibrand and Sapricone had a debate, and I wanted to share some of that with you because it really was spectacularly horrible. And I think you're going to see why they don't want me participating in these debates. So here we go. Right here. This is really quite rich.
Okay. Thank you, candidate.
We're going to move on to foreign policy. Over the weekend, Axios reported that there was a leak of highly classified U.S. intelligence about Israel's plans for retaliation against Iran. If the plans are true, would you support Israel's direct targeting of Iran? And we're going to begin with you, Mike Sapricone.
I would.
Would you like to flesh that out at all?
I think, we have to investigate things before, again, we rush to judgment. But I think we should support Israel as best we can. We shouldn't be micromanaging what Israel is doing.
All right. So under what circumstances, if any, would you consider calling for a limit on U.S. arms sales to Israel?
I don't think I would do that. I think we need to support them in any way we can. They're our closest ally in the Mideast. And Israel's not just fighting a war for Israel. They're fighting a war for us. They're fighting a war for the West. Who's going to be next in what's going on with Iran? I mean, we gave Iran $5 billion or so under the Biden administration. We left weapons in Afghanistan. When I was in Israel last month, you could see the shrapnel and look at the missiles that were marked with Iranian markings on them. It's embarrassing what we've done with Iran. We need to stand tall with Israel. We need to support them in any way we can, and we need not to micromanage them.
Thank you. Ms. Gillibrand, if the plans are true, that the highly leaked documents about Israel's plans for retaliation against Iran were true, would you support Israel's direct targeting of Iran?
I do support Israel's right to defend itself in all of these circumstances. And Iran just launched a very robust missile attack on Israel. Israel is a very small country in the middle of a very rough neighborhood. It is receiving missiles from Iran, from Lebanon, and from Gaza. So it is being attacked at least on 3 fronts. If Israel decides they need to target some part of Iran's infrastructure for nuclear weapons, for missile production, some cyber response, it's absolutely in their right to do that because they've already been attacked, and they've been being attacked by Iran's proxies for a very long time, but most recently from Hezbollah and Hamas. And so they do have a right to do so. And we will support Israel in trying to defend itself.
So same follow-up. Under what circumstances, if any, would you consider calling for a limit on U.S. arms sales to Israel?
I think we should support Israel. They are our greatest ally in the Middle East. They're being attacked by Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, and Iran, terrorist organizations intent on destroying the existence of Israel and killing Jews. That is their mission. That is their goal. And I think we have to stand by them, and we will keep doing that. But we should also be advising them and giving them guidance about how to defeat terrorism long term. The greatest way to defeat terrorism long term is to sign this regional defense alliance with Saudi Arabia, get Arab partners such as UAE.
Okay, so where do you even begin to unpack that? Unbelievably stupid. First of all, I'm not sure that Sapir Cohn could find Lebanon on a map. Maybe he can. Gillibrand and micromanage. We shouldn't micromanage Israel. Well, we're not micromanaging. We're just giving them unlimited amounts of weapons to kill civilians, primarily women and children, en masse. Gillibrand says that they're just surrounded by terrorist nations, never mind what Israel is doing now in Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, never mind that Israel carried out a series of assassinations and attacks. And if we're going to attack Iranian nuclear facilities, which are very deep underground, are we going to tell Israel to go ahead and use their nuclear weapons to do that? And if so, how would Iran respond? But of course, these are not military geniuses or even statesmen. They are, in the case of Sapir Cohn, stupid idiots running a sham campaign so the Republican Party can pretend they have someone. And Gillibrand, who's a little smarter, she didn't say directly, I'd support strikes on Iran. She said Israel has a right to defend itself. Well, it's gone well beyond that, but you see from her attire, demeanor, she is profiting handsomely. Her family, her father-in-law was one of the directors of British Aerospace, so she does have skin in this game, and she's making a lot of money over the dead bodies of tens of thousands of children. Now, you begin to have an idea why they don't want me in this debate. Let's take another clip where you will again see the, I don't know what we could call it, genius of these two foreign policy military experts. And remember, people like Scott Ritter, Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, Dennis Fritz, Ray McGovern, top military and intelligence professionals are joining myself and Jose Vega this weekend. They're not joining Gillibrand or Sapir Cohn, who absolutely would not listen to them in any regard. So let's take the next clip here. Here we go. Oops. Am I playing this? Hold on. I think I did not select it. No, not this. Here we go. I'm sorry.
Another perspective, Mike Sapir Cohn, like it's doing with Lebanese nationals. The Biden administration is considering admitting some Palestinians to the U.S. under temporary protected status. Another initiative that's being floated calls on American aid to Arab countries to be conditioned on their willingness to receive refugees from Gaza. Do you support either of those proposals?
I certainly don't import us. I don't agree with bringing Lebanese refugees, nationals over to America. I don't believe that. We have enough people coming to America, and we have enough terrorism here in America. I think other countries
Lebanese terrorists
in the Middle East and help out with the problems. I certainly would not be in favor of bringing any Palestinians to America. I mean, I was in Gaza, right on the border of Gaza, and I didn't realize at first. I thought Hamas was a terrorist organization that had taken over Palestine. And only did I realize when I was at the kibbutz that the Palestine people were as much terrorists that day on October 7th of the last year to the Jews in Israel. And I would not accept that. They're also working, they've 70% of Hamas, 70% of Palestine supports Hamas, and that's not good.
Okay, so we see that he is absolutely brilliant. Hamas is all of Palestine. Hezbollah is all of Lebanon. The Lebanese people are terrorists. You want this in the U.S. Senate? Do you know how embarrassing it is? Do you know what people at the BRICS Summit are saying about the United States elections and the pathetic, moronic quality of many of our candidates typified by these two? Now, if you can bear it, I'm going to go to one last clip from the debate last night. And again, you will see why they could not afford to have me participating, this time on Ukraine.
Thank you. Mr. Sapercone, Donald Trump has promised to end the war with Ukraine and Russia, quote, before even becoming president, by suggesting he'll give ultimatums to one party or another. But Ukraine's Zelensky is the only leader in the conflict that Washington really has any leverage over. So would you support Trump if he demanded that Ukraine permanently surrender territory to Russia?
No. No.
Would you like to respond to that?
I wouldn't either.
We're moving on to the lightning round.
Okay, two geniuses, absolute geniuses. Crimea voted overwhelmingly to join Russia. It's a fait accompli, and I'm sure that's what part of what's being discussed. Sapercone, who was endorsed by Trump, who clearly got bad advice from his people, since Sapercone is a never-Trumper whose security firm gave money to Letitia James when she was running for Attorney General. He said flat out he wouldn't work with Trump to end that war, the war that could be the end of civilization. So, and Gillibrand, of course, no, not at all. Continue that war. Carry on. Who cares how many dead Ukrainians, how many dead Palestinians? The United States has to provide weapons to everybody. After all, they're fighting for freedom and democracy. Sort of like the freedom and democracy we see here in the US elections, where in the state of New York, it's the first time since 1876, there have been only two presidential candidates because nobody without $1 billion can get on the ballot in this state, except myself, of course, which makes me infinitely more qualified than these people. Next door, the state of New Jersey has 9 presidential candidates. So let me just remind you again, please join myself and Jose Vega this Saturday. Go to vegasairpeacefund.org. Get tickets. You do not want to miss this event. Otherwise, donate to my campaign at sairforsenate.com. Sign up to volunteer. In the last week, we have to move a ton of literature. So thank you very much for listening, and tell them to let me into the debate next time if they don't want to drive everyone